Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Ruby and Sapphire arc, where previously, Kyogre and Groudon's battle has been contained by the legendary Regis, Regirock, Regice, Regigigas, all thanks to Steven. And with Wally's help, Norman was able to free, and he rides into battle atop Rayquaza, the third legendary beast, all in an effort to stop the two's destruction of all of Hoenn. Ruby has forced Sapphire to the sidelines, not wanting her caught up in the conflict or potentially taken over by one of the orbs. So Courtney joins his cause, having felt a bit of connection to Ruby because of their similar interests. But in the final battle, Courtney is injured and dragged into the Cave of Origin as it collapses, seemingly killing her. With her dying words, she manages to communicate to Ruby so that he may join his father Norman, as Ruby is able to use the red and blue orbs to stop Kyogre and Groudon. But after the battle, Steven apparently also falls because of his control over the Titan, and on top of that, Norman as well. But why? While we have seen the dangers of controlling powerful Pokemon before, I'm left wondering, was there no alternatives that could have stopped this? Blaine was able to come up with an invention to help him and the others. Did the Pokemon Association send these trainers to their death? Or is there more to it? Can something still be done? But is it too late, and that the light has already left their eyes? Join me as I find out, won't you? But yeah, seriously, I have a hard time believing that this is just permanently how it goes. Like, I don't know a lot of spoilers, but I don't know. It just doesn't sit right that they would end a story arc like this. And I feel that it's been alluded to me that there is a way that they come back. So, chapter 264, It All Ends Now, part 5. And, because we see the silhouette right there. I'm gonna pop Rayquaza right in there. Good little buddy right there. Alright, we have narration. The two ancient Pokemon, Kyogre and Groudon, have left Sootopolis City and fallen into a deep slumber once more. But one thing has changed. A great many things have changed, including Sootopolis floating in the sky. What do? Aboard the Pokemon Association blimp, someone says one of them has gone to rest in a different location. Kyogre has swum back to the seafloor cavern as before, but Groudon has chosen the crater of Mount Chimney for his new resting place. I wonder. Captain Stern turns and says, President, this means the president of the Pokemon Association says, yes. They've separated. They no longer hold a grudge against each other. They must have satisfied their battle lust through this long and fierce battle. Yeah, it was basically like, yeah, we ain't finding a winner in this one. We thought this time would be different, but we just found out we're just evenly matched, so yeah, now I'm bored. The president thinks. So the battle was settled by Norman awakening Rayquaza after all. He then presses a button and puts out an announcement saying, I'd like to thank all of you. God, I can't get over that afro. The gym leaders who put everything into your battle against the enemy adamants. The Elite Four and both champions who wielded Regirock, Regice, and Registeel to minimize the damage. The two trainers who fought against the leaders of Team Aqua and Team Magma when they raged out of control due to the influence of the orbs. And all the trainers who took part in this battle. We are victorious. Kyogre and Groudon has departed. It's time to spread the good news throughout Hoenn. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, mass destruction and all that. But then again, if I think back to when I've seen the Japanese people deal with natural disasters, it's relief, they mourn, and they rebuild, which that happens in any disaster. But suddenly, Wallace chimes in, saying, I'm sorry to dampen your spirits, but I have some bad news. Steven has fallen. The president says, what? I'll arrange for a hospital bed right away. Wallace says, no, it's too late. He's already gone. Wallace's hands trembles. He shouts, why? How could this happen? Steven was supervising the Elite Four, Regirock, Regice, and Registeel, were all under his control. The strain must have been too much for him. But the president chimes in saying, Wallace, he did everything he could. Oh no, it's Phoebe. He's on her Pokegear saying, I was there when Steven deciphered the stone plate. I can tell you what happened. The engraving on the stone plate made by the people of ancient times read, but we sealed the Pokemon away. We feared them. Sydney says, those ancient Pokemon must have known. Those ancient people must have known the risk of controlling such powerful Pokemon. Drake takes off his hat saying, that's right. Reggie Rock, Regice, and Reggie Steel could easily become formidable foes just like Kyogre and Groudon if we made any missteps. And Glacia adds, look, since Steven was defeated, the group created by those 6 Pokemon is starting to come undone. Wait, so Wailord and Relicanth were just hanging out this entire time? I mean, what were they actually doing? But suddenly the Reggies, I don't know, like they fly off, kind of throwing off the Elite Four and Wallace. But as the Reggies take off, Wallace and the others manage to land, I think. Oh, I see Steven's Metagross. Sorry, buddy. You can come with me. I'll take care of your Metagross. But as Wallace holds Steven, he laments what has happened. Meanwhile, Ruby continues to try to awaken his father. But then Rayquaza, peeks in and then smacks Ruby and the comatose Norman to the side and then kind of flies off. Norman finally speaks saying, Rayquaza is an ancient Pokemon, just like Kyogre and Groudon. It's impossible to fully tame it. As a matter of fact, it was angry at me because I awakened it by force and dragged it here. Ruby, don't look so shocked. I knew this was going to happen. Kyogre and Groudon can only be controlled and calmed with the aid of the red and blue orb, the red orb and the blue orb. But there's no such orb to control Rayquaza. Are you sure about that? What happens if you try to control it without an orb? Here's the answer. Look at me. The Pokemon Association captured Rayquaza to study it. They were trying to create an artificial green orb to control it. Oh, that gem looks very familiar to me. But they never succeeded. And what's more, Rayquaza escaped from the Pokemon Association's research lab on the very day I took my first test to be a gym leader. I was forced to go after it. Ruby remembers Courtney's dying words saying, your father couldn't take the gym leader test for another 5 years. It was ordered to search for Rayquaza. Ruby thinks couldn't take the gym leader test again for all of that time, and he was forced to search for Rayquaza as some kind of punishment. He must have made a huge mistake and had to take responsibility for it. But how could a great man like my father make such a terrible mistake? Something doesn't add up. That day, someone must have done something wrong. My father took the blame for it, and that someone was, and Ruby remembers the meeting with Professor Burt, the young Sapphire, the Salamence. Did the Salamence rampage inside the Pokemon Association after Ruby scared it off? How does that work? Ruby wells up with tears saying, was it me? Was it because of me that Rayquaza escaped? Norman pauses for a moment and says, yes. We cut back to the Johto region 5 years ago. Sweet Caroline. Caroline's holding the young Norman saying, today's the day you'll become a gym leader. Your dream will finally come true. Oh god, this is like a repeat of what we just saw. Bert says, aren't you being a little overconfident? The tryout hasn't even started yet. He leans in saying, just kidding, sorry. How could Norman possibly fail this test? I bet you're more worried about which gym he'll be assigned to once he passes his tryout. Caroline says, oh no, I'd go anywhere with him. Birch jabs at Norman saying, oh, you're all smiles, Norman. Hey, you should come to the Hoenn region. And Norman just chuckles. He then asks, where's Ruby? Caroline says, playing over there. He really enjoys the outdoors. Norman says, is that so? Well, I better get over to the tryout hall. Caroline says, you still have time. No need to rush. Birch follows them laughing. Suddenly there's a crash and a rumble at the association. Caroline questions Norman and he says it's from the direction of the research lab. He tells Caroline, you stay here, as he and Birch rush in. Caroline saying, be careful. As they make their way over, they're shocked, and they see Rayquaza breaking free, rising up above them. Norman says, that's... and Rayquaza attacks, So Norman sends out 2 of his slack-offs. Haven't had to think of those Pokemon in a while. They managed to deflect all of the attacks back at Rayquaza, but Rayquaza uses its tail in order to swipe it all away, blasting back Norman and Birch in the slack-off. Rayquaza then takes off into the sky. Norman says, "What was that?" Birch says, "It broke through the ceiling of the research lab and flew off. We better go check the laboratory." They make their way to the research lab. Well, they see forgot to put it in there, Salamence. Caused a lot of trouble there, buddy. The Salamence don't give a fudge. He's Salamence. He don't care. As big and as tough and as mean. But they see the Salamence apparently knocked out. Norman questions, what the? They see a researcher come out of the rubble in pain. Norman says, "Are you all right?" As she starts to faint, Norman says, "Hang in there." And Birch grabs her saying, "What happened?" The female researcher, Yanis, Professor Yanis, they call her, says that was a Pokemon that the Pokemon Association captured. We're studying it. Birch says, "What?" Professor Yanis says, "The security here is impeccable. No one should be able to enter this building, but this Salamence somehow managed to break in and tear the place apart. We aren't trainers, so we have no means of fighting it. During its rampage, it destroyed our containment machine." Birch says, "And that's how the legendary Pokemon escaped." Norman looks at the Salamence and says, "This Salamence seems injured. Did it receive this damage in the lab?" Professor Yanis says, "No, it was already like this when it broke in." Birch questions, "What's the matter, Norman?" As Norman studies the damage, he says, "Injuries from Hyper Beam and Iron Tail, and there are signs that someone tried to hold it down using confusion. Plus, its opponent seems to have a tendency to attack from the right." And Norman realizes, thinking it was Ruby. Ruby must have fought this Salamence. It's bad luck that he ran into it. An ordinary child would have run away to get help, but Ruby is extremely powerful for a child of his age, so he fought it himself. But he was unable to defeat it or capture it. The wounded Salamence ran amok, and, as it happened, entered this building. Meanwhile, at the gym leader tryouts, the Pokemon Association chairman and Watson are waiting in the observation room. The chairman says he's late. He's supposed to be here already. What is he doing? Watson questions. He's very late. The chairman says, in a few more minutes he'll be disqualified. Suddenly an assistant runs in saying, "Excuse me, there's been an accident at the research lab." It shocks Watson and the chairman. As they make their way to the research lab, Watson questions, What happened?" The chairman asks, "Did the legendary Pokemon escape? How? Who could have done this?" Norman enters saying, "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." A few days later, Norman is at a tribunal before the chairman and a few others. The chairman says, "Since you've kept your silence, you don't know exactly what happened, but it's an incontrovertible fact that this Pokemon escaped. Therefore, you are denied the right to participate in any gym leader trials for the next 5 years. And until then, you are tasked with searching for the Pokemon whose escape you appear to have enabled." Norman says, "Very well." The chairman then says, "However, you are permitted to take the test for the position of gym leader again in 5 years. Norman then questions, "President, may I ask you one question? Why did the Pokemon Association capture and study such a powerful Pokemon?" The president says, "That's none of your business." He and Norman then lock eyes, obviously angry with each other. Later, Norman's meeting with his family, saying to Caroline, "I have to go now. I won't be able to spend a lot of time with the family for a while. I'm so sorry. Forgive me." Caroline's in tears, holding Norman's hand. Norman then thinks the Pokemon flew off in that direction. He brings out his Flygon. As a young Ruby meets with his father, Caroline says, "Come, Ruby. Say goodbye to your father. Button up first." Ruby doesn't respond, and Caroline says, "Why won't you say anything? You have to tell him goodbye." And Ruby shouts, "Dad, you won't teach me how to Pokemon battle anymore?" Norman pauses and says, "Ruby, keep practicing, and not half-heartedly. You have to give it your all to master these skills, but I won't be able to teach you anymore. You have to become strong on your own. You'll have to attain your goal alone. That will require a lot of inner strength." Ruby grabs a hold of his father, saying, "No, I'm going with you." Norman brings out his slacking to restrain his son. Weird to say. And Norman says, "I can't take you with me, son." And Ruby shouts, "But Dad, I love training with you. Dad, I want to get stronger. Dad, don't go. Don't leave me." And Norman hops on his Flygon and takes off. I also forgot about Flygon. I guess this contributes to Ruby's issues with his father, feeling that his father is too cold. So Norman takes off and searches and searches. Back in present day, Ruby shouts, "You spent 5 years searching for something because of my mistake? It was your dream to become a gym leader, but you even put that off. You sacrificed yourself. Why? Why would you do all that for me?" Okay, I can't tell if Courtney's dead or not, but her lighter ignites and her voice calls out, "Why did he do it? Same reason as you. The reason you locked that girl up in that air car. People do things like that to protect people they care about. Talk about being a softie, huh?" And Norman seemingly fades away. Ruby calls out to his father, but suddenly there's an explosion. We then cut back to Mirage Island with Juan, Tate, and Liza. Tate says, "Juan, looks like everything was a success. Kyogre and Groudon have gone back to where they belong." Eliza says, "I wasn't sure what was going to happen when Ruby pushed Sapphire away, but in the end, Ruby used Rayquaza to bring an end to the conflict, so it appears your prophecy was wrong." Juan questions, "My prophecy?" Eliza says, "You kept telling us about it, remember? Ruby and Sapphire are destined to settle the dispute between Kyogre and Groudon?" Juan says, "Right, I did say that because the image I saw was of those two facing two powerful figures, but I see now that I was mistaken. The two powerful figures they're destined to face aren't Kyogre and Groudon." Tate and Liza question, "What? So it was the two figures in the cave, right?" We see electricity surging from within Wallace's car where Sapphire is. He says, "Hey, what are you shooting your lightning at? The ancient Pokemon have already left." You see Plusle and Minun getting real pissy. And she says, "Up there? You're saying there's something still up there?" Okay. We have Houndoom. Love to see me a Houndoom. And Tentacruel at the command of Maxie and Archie respectively, as they burst forward from, I have to assume, the Cave of Origins. And the tentacle that probably dragged Courtney in was probably Archie. Are they still being controlled by Kyogre and Groudon? No. The Pokemon left. So why are they still fighting? Ruby turns saying, "Maxie and Archie, I thought you two left after the first battle, but you've been hiding inside the Cave of Origin all this time." Maxie says, "That's right, I can't believe." And Archie finishes saying, "You weaklings have the audacity to stand up to us. For that you deserve to be annihilated. Everybody who stands in our way will pay for their insolence." And Tentacruel wraps up Ruby and begins to choke the life out of him. Okay, man, shoot. Here I thought we were leading into the climax, but these two old men still want more. Jeez. Alright, it's chapter 265. It all ends now. Part 6. Which, it feels weird considering that Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza have left, but they're still in the little title page here. Okay. As Ruby is restrained by Tentacruel, he says, "Those tentacles. Now I get it. You two dragged Courtney into that cave." Maxie says, "That's right." Archie says, "You could call it retribution." And then we see underneath them Courtney's lifeless hand. God, they actually killed Courtney. Meanwhile, below, under the floating city, Wallace turns to his car saying, Sapphire is still trapped inside my air car. I have to get her out of there. But what's all that electricity around it? He calls out, "Metagross, I need your help." And Metagross flies him up to his flying car. His air car, I should say. And he calls out, "Sapphire, are you alright?" Sapphire calls back to Wallace, and Wallace asks, "What's going on?" Sapphire says, "I don't know. Everything's ought to be fine now that Kyogre and Groudon are gone, but Plusle and Minun seem like they're raring for another fight. They're acting like there's still an enemy around." Wallace says maybe they sense something with their acute Pokemon senses? At any rate, Ruby's still up there too. I'll remote control the air car. Let's fly up to it, Sapphire. And he uses his Pokegear to do just that. But as they near, it's like an invisible force bumps them away. Sapphire questions, "Why did we get pushed back down?" Wallace says, "I see. Even though Kyogre and Groudon have left, there's still enough electrical energy flying around Sootopolis City to keep it aloft. And that's not all. The ozone emitted from Rayquaza is surrounding the area too, and the two are combining to create a powerful force field." Blah blah blah, scientific mumbo jumbo. But I mean, I guess that explains why it's still floating. I have to hope that as it dissipates, it slowly lets the city back down. We don't need a catastrophic extinction event. And then again, is it high enough? I don't know. Is it high enough to cause that much damage to the already damaged Hoenn? Wallace questions, how can we get through it? There must be some way. Sapphire then points, there is, Wallace. Look, the spot the air car crashed into while it was giving off electricity. It created a hole. He turns to Plusle and Minus saying, all that training at Mirage Island paid off. We then get a read of Plusle's Pokédex entry saying, Plusle, cheering Pokemon. Plusle always acts as a cheerleader for its partners. Whenever a teammate puts out a good effort in battle, this Pokemon shorts out its body to create the crackling noise of sparks to show its joy. Sapphire says, they've always been able to create pom-poms using the electricity they release themselves, but now they've learned how to use their pom-poms to attack, thanks to their training with Juan. They just might be able to make a hole big enough for us to jump through if they aim their strongest attack at the force field. So Wallace, could you? She knocks on the glass of the car. Wallace says, okay. He lets down the roof, and Plusle and Minun go onto the hood, and Sapphire says, all right, Plusle, Minun, let's see fire a great big attack. And the two Pokemon let off an electric charge right to the force field. Wallace thinks their attack is working, but the force field's too large for the two of them to penetrate. Sapphire slams her fist down saying, why can't I go up there? He's there. Ruby's up there. I have to help Ruby. But a voice calls out, you need a strong electrical charge, right? In that case, perhaps I can be of help. Yeah, I have no idea who it is. Meanwhile, Ruby's getting tossed around by Tentacruel, the orbs flying off of him. Angrily, he asks, what are you doing? Archie and Maxie then pick up the orbs. Maxie saying, what are we doing? Archie says, why, isn't it obvious? Maxie adds, the same thing we did last time. Archie says, only this time no one shall interfere. Maxie says, we've talked about it while we hid together in the Cave of Origin. And Archie adds, we joined forces once and we were successful. Archie says, come to think of it, that's what we should have done from the start. Archie says, cooperate with each other to get rid of everyone who dared to stand in our way. Then Archie, every trainer, every gym leader, the Elite Four, the Pokemon Association, the legendary Pokemon. Archie, we will crush our inept admins who were of no use to us. Maxie, and then, once we are the only two left, we'll battle to see who comes out on top. Maxie, Archie, that's the new strategy we've devised. Jeez, they are like Kyogre and Groudon, and even those kind of gave up after. It's just like, yeah, we're getting nowhere. Much to Ruby's shock, Maxie says Rayquaza was the biggest thorn in our side. The gym leader who was controlling is gone now. That's a good start. But we want to be extra sure, so... And Houndoom is about to unleash an attack on Norman's body. All Ruby watches crying out, no! Houndoom seemingly incinerates Norman's body as Ruby calls out for his father. Archie and Maxie laugh sinisterly. Meanwhile with Sapphire, he says it's... What the generator from New Mauville? The hell? Sapphire says, it's New Mauville's electricity generator. You mean... The voice calls out, exactly. Trickmaster at your service. Ta-da! Sapphire questions, what are you doing here? I am still shocked that this part of the plot is actually coming in handy. Trickmaster says, I wasn't going to stand around and just watch Watty and everybody else in Hoenn fight. So I got inside the electric generator and made some alterations so it could fly. It took longer than I thought, though. By the time I got here, everything was already over. I was just about to head home when... And he saw everything go down. Meanwhile, Sapphire starts to cry, and Trickmaster questions, Is this a bad time? Wallace chimes in saying, Sapphire, this is no time for tears. Sapphire says, no, Tricky, the generator's function is absorb and discharge, right? Trickmaster says, that's right. First, we've got to absorb Plusle and Minun's electrical energy, then I'll enhance it several hundred times, and the generator fires off a massive blast as Trickman says, "Discharge!" blasting a massive hole in the force field. Sapphire calls out, "Hurry!" While Wallace says, "We made it through." Plusle and Minun react to something, and Sapphire calls out, "Plusle and Minun have found something." But much to Sapphire and Wallace's shock, they see Archie and Maxie, the downed Courtney, the soon-to-be incinerated Norman, and the restrained Ruby. Wallace says, "So this is what Plusle and Minun sense. I understand now, Stephen. Why you entrusted me with the position of champion. Now is the time to wear this." So he brings out the cape. Archie and Maxie turn, Archie questioning, "Who's there?" And then Wallace, now with his fabulous cape, has it billowing in the breeze. He fans it out saying, "If you know what this cape means, then I don't need to tell you who I am. And if you don't know what this cape means, it's not worth telling the likes of you." Dang, coming in like a G. To think I made such a big deal out of the cape, only for it to actually be a big deal in the story, that's kind of wild to me. I won't lie. Alright, chapter 266. It all ends now, part 7. Come down to the wire, boys and girls. And I was going to come up with something clever for non-gender conforming, but, well, I'm not clever enough for that. Wallace leaps into battle with his awesome cape, saying, "I swear upon this cape that I shall make you pay for terrorizing the Hoenn region." And as Archie and Maxie get ready, Wallace sends out his Wishcast and Sea King. They unleash a devastating attack against Houndoom and Tentacruel. Archie says, "Oh, the champion." Maxie says, "The champion's cape." Wallace says, "You know what this cape means? Good. Then you have the right to face me." And so Sea King goes up against Houndoom while Wishcast body slams into Tentacruel. Sapphire runs up saying, "Wallace, I'll help too." But Wallace says, "I'll be fine. Take care of Ruby for me, Sapphire." Sapphire runs over to Ruby, calling out to him, and as she grabs him, she says, "Why'd you have to do this?" Meanwhile, in the battle between Wallace, Archie, and Maxie, Archie says, "You are powerful, very powerful." While Maxie says, "I can see why you're the champion, the strongest trainer in Hoenn. But did you really think we didn't see this coming?" Archie says, "Naturally, we have a trump card to stop you." Wallace is shocked as they say, "Can you guess what that is? Allow me to introduce you to the other trainer who came here in the hopes of interfering with me. Perhaps you know her." And Tentacruel brings out Winona. "Man, the girl's in this thing catching a break." Wallace calls out to Winona as she's thrown down before... Oh no, but before he can step in, Tentacruel's tendril snaps in front of him as Maxie says, as Archie says, "Hold it right there." Maxie says, "Are you aware of the danger you're in? Look." And Tentacruel squeezes Winona awake, and something seems to crack. Might be a rib. Maxie smiles, saying, "Good. You catch on quickly. No matter how strong you are, you're hopeless now. Place your Pokemon back in your Pokeball and place them on the ground in front of you." Wallace recalls Sea King and Wishcast, and he places the balls on the ground. Archie says, "Good boy." And Maxie has Houndoom incinerate their locking mechanism, making them unable to open. Maxie laughs. "Now you can't open your Pokeball." Well then, Tentacruel wraps his tendril around Wallace's face and flings him into the rocks. Oh geez. Wallace is flung around again and again, as Sapphire can only watch, calling out to Wallace. Archie and Maxie turn away as he's thrown behind them. Archie says, "Phew, this is so refreshing." Maxie says, "You could say that again." They look over the land, Maxie saying, "Looking down on them from up here?" Archie adds, "It's as if we are their rulers and they are bowing down to us." Ruby awakens, and with an intense look in his eyes, he looks around at the battlefield. Oh, they actually burned up Norman's body. It's friggin' savage. Ruby looks around saying, "Everybody, Father, Courtney, Master, Winona, even Stephen, they've all fallen. There are no trainers left to fight these villains." Maxie says, "That's right." But Archie says, "No one can stand in our way now." But something suddenly splashes Archie in the face, and he looks down saying, "Huh? I see a Pokemon who doesn't belong here. It's Feebas." Ruby calls out to Feebas as it jumps in, doing its best to slap at Archie and Maxie. But Maxie throws it to the ground saying, "You fool." And Archie begins stomping on it, saying, "How dare you show your ugly mug to us, and sully our victory celebration." He smacks the Pokemon away, and Ruby goes over to it, holding it. Ruby says, "Fifi, you've been chasing after me all this time." But Archie and Maxie approach, Archie saying, "That Pokemon can perish right there in front of you for all we care. Weak, slow, and revoltingly ugly. Something that ugly doesn't deserve to live." Ruby says, "Ugly? Does Fifi look ugly to you?" "I see. That's how I used to think too." And with a smile, Ruby says, "But now, I think that Fifi is beautiful. It's such a sweet Pokemon. Even though I was really mean to it, it still followed me here. And it's so brave. Fifi knew it was no match for you, but it stood up to you all the same. It's not about looks, it's what inside that makes it beautiful. The first time I met my master, I saw a man and woman start to quarrel, but then quickly make up. I didn't get it. It didn't change because of some Pokemon special move or special power. It was the warmth of my master and his Pokemon that softened their hearts and the tension between them. That day I learned that nice people have the power to comfort and cheer up the people around them. With just their presence, you need to learn that. True beauty comes from the heart, a heart that loves and cares for others. You need to remember that before you're taken over by some other evil power." But Archie and Maxie just laugh. Wallace, bloody and bruised, says, "Well said, Ruby. I am proud to have you as my pupil. Here, place this on Fifi." He hands over a ribbon, saying, "The winner's ribbon for the beauty category of Hyper Rank, which Fifi was meant to receive before." Ruby takes it, saying thank you. He places Feebas on the ground and says, "I'm sorry, Fifi. I've never introduced you properly, have I? So here goes." He places the ribbon on Feebas, saying, "Even though its body is ancient and now injured, the beauty of its heart will remain unchanged forevermore. Behold the..." I don't know why I'm getting all friggin' emotional, because I knew it was gonna happen. But it's a really beautiful moment as Feebas evolves into Milotic right before Ruby's eyes. And Ruby, in astonishment, says, "So it was you all along. You're the Milotic I've been longing to meet all this time." Oof. Oof. I don't know, man. I know it's silly, but just, like I saw it coming a mile away. Well, not this way. Not this way. It just, everything about that moment was perfect. I don't know how you end all of this, but the final chapter of this volume, chapter 267, it all ends now, part 8, and the finale of the Ruby and Sapphire arc. Milotic is here, finally, freshly evolved and roaring for a fight. Ruby says, "You're telling me to fight, aren't you?" And Milotic gives a nod. Sapphire, kind of dumbfounded by everything that's gone on, doesn't have words. But Ruby calls out to her, saying, "The two ancient Pokemon have left. This time, let's fight together. The two of us." And Sapphire smiles, saying, "Okay." And they step forward. Ruby atop Tropius with Minun, Ruby atop Milotic with Plusle, and Sapphire on Tropius with Minun, confronting Archie and Maxie. Archie brings up his Walrein, while Maxie brings out his Camerupt. Ruby and Sapphire bring out Blaziken and Swampert, and Sapphire has Blaziken use Sky Uppercut on both Walrein and Camerupt. Like, dang, a double dose. And as they're launched into the sky, Ruby has Swampert move around them and use Muddy Water. And Swampert blasts the two Pokemon. Sapphire says, "The combination attack we practice on Mirage Island." But Archie and Maxie simply laugh and bring out a barrage of Houndoom and Walrein. Yeah, so some tend to have doubles. But as Ruby and Sapphire's Pokemon clash against Archie and Maxie's, Wallace says they've called out all their Pokemon for this final battle. No, wait. My air car! And he sees Archie and Maxie boarding his air car. Freaking Grand Theft Auto on top of everything else. They are bad people. They take off in the air car. Maxie saying, "To tell the truth, I never thought you'd hold out so long." While Archie says, "We'll withdraw out of respect for all the hard work you've done for us. The blue orb and the red orb are back in our hands. We can get rid of you at our leisure now." And they take off, much to the shock of Ruby and Sapphire. But suddenly, they're confronted by Trickmaster in the friggin' the generator, as he says, "So those are the bad guys. This is the only way out of the force field, and you'll never get past the Trick Master. And they simply knock away Trick Master. God damn it, Trick Master. They just say, move aside. Sapphire calls out, Tricky, they're trying to escape. If that's what they're planning, then I've got a counter plan. And Plusle and mine and unleash a massive electric charge. Sapphire calls out to Ruby, the enhanced electrical energy from the generator. Let's use it to attack them, Ruby. 1, 2, and 3. And Plusle and mine let off a massive pair of electrical blasts, like friggin' sending out giant spirit bombs. And oh god damn. Archie and Maxie are consumed by it, and did they just kill them? Did Archie and Maxie just die? Really hard to tell. Sapphire shouts, perfect! While Ruby calls out to Sapphire and hands over his Pokegear, saying, take this. Type in 3818 for me. It's a remote control code I set to lock you inside the car. You can close the roof of the air car and protect them from the electricity, so they'll survive. Okay, no, Sapphire was going for the kill. Ruby's just like, nah, it ain't what it's about. Sapphire calls over to Ruby, questioning this, but Ruby says, they can't escape now. The only thing left to do is to get back those 2 orbs. The Sapphire asks, but how? There ain't any Pokemon who can fly that far and retrieve the orbs from inside the powerful electrical field like that. But Ruby holds out a Pokeball, saying, actually, there is one Pokemon. Sapphire thinks, that hold? I've seen it before somewhere. I've got a vague memory of it. I remember it was back then. Yeah, she remembers him holding it out in front of the... Can't believe this is the only time I get to bring you out in all this time, but the Viper. And Ruby says, it's a very special Pokemon that I hardly ever call out of its Pokeball. Oh god, is it the Salamence? Or, wait, I met it back in the Johto region before I moved here. I don't know what kind of Pokemon it is, and the Pokedex doesn't recognize it, but I've always had it with me. My 6th Pokemon. Wait, not Ralp? I swear to god, if it's Celebi, it's friggin' Celebi! What? What? He's had a Celebi with him this entire... What? He's had a friggin' Celebi on him this entire goddamn time. That's how he does it. That's how everyone lives. Celebi with the ability to reverse time. But how? You caught it in a goddamn regular Pokeball? How? Was it after the Mask of Ice situation? No, that would have been too long ago. Or maybe not? I wonder what the difference between the 5-year gap and when Red won the Pokemon League was. And then Gold and Silver. I can't believe it. Ruby, you absolute legend. But why? Why would you wait all this time to bring it out? Juan, watching from Mirage Island, says, oh, it's Celebi. Now I see. The distortion in the flow of time whenever Ruby arrived on or left Mirage Island. It all makes sense now, does it? It's because he had the time travel Pokemon with him. Now we see in the air car, Celebi takes the 2 orbs. Archie and Maxie reach out saying, no, just once more. Let us use the orbs just one more time. And meanwhile, with Gabby and Ty, who I kind of forgot about them, and Absol, and we racking up Pokemon in this one, and it's getting kind of crowded here, but regardless, Gabby calls out, look, Ty, the energy creating the force field has dispersed. Wait, fully? Oh, okay. I panicked for a split second. I panicked when she says, and Sutopolis City is slowly starting to calm down. Okay. Like, that was a plot point that just kept hanging over my head. It's just like, wait, if this thing drops too fast, and she says, it's over. It's finally over. Somehow, some way, Ruby and Sapphire passed out. Got a lot of questions about that. While Ruby thinks, I'm tired. So tired. Where am I? Is this a dream, or is it... While Celebi brings over the red and blue orb, something flashes before Ruby as he thinks, oh, that's Steven, Courtney, and Father. The people who fell in battle. They're fading away. They'll never come back. All those great people who mean so much to me. Celebi destroys the orbs, or they just shatter for some reason, and Ruby and Sapphire fly up And Celebi, I don't really know what's happening here, honestly. Hey, what? Huh. Well, Wallace is still beaten up, so okay. Huh. Ruby and Sapphire wake up, and the Pokemon Association president says, "Ah, you've woken up, Ruby, Sapphire, how wonderful. I've been told you brought an end to this crisis. On behalf of the Hoenn region, allow me to thank you. Good work, and thank you for everything." And we see the Pokemon fan club president, the swimmer Jack, Mr. Doc, Captain Stern, Steven, the blind boy and his Magikarp, Gabby, and Ty with the camera, Watson, Trickmaster, Wallace's cheerleaders, Professor Cosmo and his assistant, the Pokemon Association chairman, Tate and Liza, their grandparents / old mentors, Juan, Flannery, Norman, Roxanne, Brawley, Winona, a very injured Wallace, and even the announcer? And is that the receptionist for the Pokemon contest? Like, everybody's here. God, this is a lot of characters. I'm surprised I didn't trip up naming all of them. It was Celebi, wasn't it? Ruby thinks, what? As he sees Steven and Norman alive and well. He gets up, questioning, where am I? Sapphire says, inside, I still can't get over this name, Bagoon, the Flying Pokemon Association headquarters. And then he looks out the window and sees Courtney flying away on her, another one, Swallow. Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting so huffy. I'm the one who decided to do this. It's just a lot of images, okay? It's just a lot of images. Courtney flying away on her Swallow, another chance at life. I mean, did they know that they died? Did they get to the other side and it's just like, oh, I mean, I guess so. Courtney says, looks like I'm still here. I cheated death after all. Maybe now wouldn't be a bad time to go back to the dream I abandoned so long ago. I'll grow berries and make Pokeblocks and enter Pokemon contests. And she flies off. Ruby thinks time was reversed. If we've landed in a slightly altered future. He looks to his Pokeball and sees that it's empty. And Ruby thinks of Celebi, questioning, is this why you stayed with me all this time? The Pokemon fan club chairman says, oh, Ruby, we're finally reunited. Ruby calls out the chairman, who says, it was the middle of summer the last time we met at Slatewood City, and now the autumn breeze is starting to blow. Ruby says, wow, it's been that long. Then he goes, midsummer. Sapphire says, autumn breeze. She turns to the Pokemon Association president, asking, Mr. President, what day is it today? The chairman says September 19th. Why do you ask? And Ruby and Sapphire scream at each other while Sapphire says, tomorrow's the 18th day. One day left until the deadline. They rush past the president saying, I totally forgot about it. Our 80-day challenge. I've only got the Petalburg City Gym left. Oh, Ruby says, I only have the Master Rank contest left. They slide up on their knees to Norman and Wallace. Sapphire say, Norman, I know this ain't the best time to ask, but would you accept my challenge to a gym battle? While Ruby says, Master, I know I'm asking for the impossible, but could you ask them to host a Pokemon contest today? And they both say, we only have 1 day left. They are a 10-year-old and 11-year-old. And she's 1 day away from it. 11-year-olds. Norman says, very well. Wallace says, no problem. Norman tells Sapphire, I'll get back to the gym to prepare, but I won't go easy on you. Wallace turns to the announcer for the contest. I know he has a name, but I really don't care to learn it. Saying, you don't mind, do you? The announcer says, of course not. I managed to host the Hyper Rank contest during that deluge, remember? I mean, that is true. You are that kind of crazy. As Ruby and Sapphire cheer, hooray! I mean, how much was reversed, though? How much was changed? I mean, was it just Courtney, Norman, and Wallace? Or was it everyone who died during all of that? And how much time had to have passed? What did Celebi exactly do to make sure that they lived? I have so many questions about that. Narration then reads, and the next day, 80 days from their departure, the promised day, cut to near Route 101, where we see the forest they were previously in very much underwater. Okay, so a lot of the ecological problems are still there. Sapphire swings on a vine to the cave from before, saying, I barely made it on time. Phew, that gym battle at Petalburg was so tough. Part of me is kind of bummed I didn't get to see that battle. If Norman had been as fit as usual, I wouldn't have been able to beat him. He's a mighty strong guy, but we see on the back of her back of her bag, all the badges. She says, I finally got my last badge. I fulfilled my dream of defeating all the gym leaders. Which is weird because usually that's just step one, and then it's challenge the league and all that. I wonder how Ruby's doing. Even if he does win his contest, can he make it back here in time today? As she lands in the cage, she says, plus, he just went through a tough battle and probably won't be able to win the whole contest in just one day. Phew, finally back at my secret base. And she brings out all of her Pokemon, including Donphan. Okay, that's officially enough, guys. That's officially enough Pokemon. The place we promised to meet? Oh god, whoa. Okay, now this is more like a secret base. Just, that's a lot of stuff. Yeah, Ruby was definitely here. And Ruby comes out of a little tent saying, hey, welcome back. Sapphire questions, what in the world is this? And she sees plushies and pillows and a TV. Oh, that's cute. Ruby looks around saying, I remodeled your secret base. Sapphire says, remodeled? Ruby says, yeah, the Slateport City Marketplace. Oh, yeah, that's where you get a lot of the goodies. See, that's the one thing I actually do remember doing is just putting a whole bunch of stuff in my secret base. I love putting stuff in my secret base. The Slateport City Market was selling all sorts of stuff at a discount, so I bought some things on the way back here. It was a Hoenn revitalization sale. What do you think? Isn't your place lovely and cute now? Take a look at how adorable this Azurill doll is. Ah, the Pokemon plushies, of course. Sapphire says, but what about the contest? And Ruby brings out all of his Pokemon who have bandanas on them. Why do they have bandanas? But they all present proudly, as Ruby says, isn't it obvious? Hey, isn't he missing a Pokemon? Yeah, is he ever gonna get Ralts back? I'm just realizing this. Does he ever get his, Curlia? Curlia, yeah. Then again, I don't know. Part of me feels like maybe Wally should keep it. And as Ruby cuddles with Milotic, he says, the chairman gave me this scarf before I left Bagoon. And Fifi is super beautiful, so it was a piece of cake. Hey, scarf? Are those something special? What are the scarves? Scarf? A type of held item. Boost the conditions of Pokemon. Oh, okay. Oh, to enhance all of their stats. Oh, yes. Red scarf for cool, blue scarf for beauty, pink scarf for cute, green for clever, yellow for tough. So Nana was coolness, so Mighty Anna had the red scarf. Kiki, the Delcatty, was cuteness, so it got the pink scarf. Moo Moo, the Swampert, was toughness, so it got the yellow scarf. Fifi, beauty, so Milotic got the blue scarf. And Fofo, the Castform, smartness, so it got the green scarf. Oh dang, that's kinda cool. Ruby says, by the way, the contest hall at Lily Cove City barely survived, but the other buildings were so badly damaged they're going to rebuild them into new facilities called the Pokemon Battle Tent. Battle Tent? What's a Battle Tent? They replaced contest halls in Pokemon Emerald. Oh, for practicing for the Battle Frontier. Okay, I'm not going to read any further than that. But Pokemon contests existed up until... Oh, wait, contest? Yeah, okay, yeah, because May and Dawn were the only ones who participated in contests. Ruby and Sapphire, then Diamond and Pearl. Interesting. Ruby says, that means we both fulfilled our goals. Plus, we both came back here on the day we promised. So that means we're tied. He then looks at all of Sapphire's Pokemon saying, your Pokemon are so dirty. Let me brush them for you. Well, I will admit, taking care of your Pokemon is one of the more fun things they included in the games. Especially, I remember, which one was it? Was it Sun and Moon, or which one was the one where you could actually pet your Pokemon and stuff? Or am I thinking of Sword and Shield? Well, Ruby's just rooming away at her Pokemon. Sapphire's just left dumbfounded, thinking, what kind of conversation is this? Has he forgotten, or is he pretending he doesn't remember? He's acting like it never happened. Well, if he's forgotten, I'll just tell him how I feel again. I don't like leaving things up in the air, she said with confidence, and then when she actually has to say anything, she stumbles over her words and is all shy, saying, about what I said to you when we left Mirage Island, and Ruby questions what? But suddenly, weirdly, the TV clicks on and Gabby's there saying, that's it for the Masters of the World. How did you like it? Their skills are amazing, aren't they? Masters of the World. Next, we bring you the latest news from the home of Norman and Ruby, two of the heroes of the Hoenn incident. And Ruby and Sapphire are shocked as Caroline is shown on screen. As Ruby says, Mom? Caroline says, Ruby, if you're watching this, come home quickly. We're ready for the party. Ruby questions, the party? Caroline says it's Sapphire's birthday today, her birthday and your birthday that we missed out on celebrating 80 days ago. We're going to celebrate them both together. And she's wiping away her tears, and Ruby and Sapphire take off. We see Riley and Wanda as, well, I bet Riley's pretty damn busy, all things considered, as Wanda on top of a massive Loudred, bringing her some food. Like, does she own the Loudred now, or is it just, like, whose Loudred is that? Or Xploud? No, not Xploud. No, it's Loudred. Or did the Loudred just like hanging out with them? Mr. Briny is now in possession of the SS title? I don't think I ever used that. Transports you from Lily Cove to Slateport. Huh. We see the Pokemon fan club president, Captain Stern and Mr. Doc all finally able to breathe easy. We see Professor Cosmo and his assistants hanging out with Wallace's cheerleaders, and we see letters written by Wally. One saying, Dear Professor Birch, I found this Pokedex. Please return it to its rightful owner. And then one with the curly saying, Dear Ruby, thank you for everything. I'm returning Rara to you. Thanks to you, blah, 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 a great... I get it. Wally's position in the game never really had him that involved either. And it does kind of leave me wondering if in this world, since it doesn't seem like Sapphire's going to be champion, maybe Wally becomes champion. I don't know. But is he also returning the Grovyle too? We see Brawley with Roxanne, Watson and Trickmaster, Flannery welcoming people back to the hot springs now that I guess Groudon reactivated the volcano, and a sign saying grand reopening. The lava-rich town hot springs have reopened. And then Flannery manages to spot Tabitha. Did Archie and Maxie get arrested? I mean, what happened to Archie and Maxie? And we see Courtney growing Pokeberries, and we see Ruby and Sapphire, both now 11 years old, running down the road back home. Ruby turns to her saying, So, how do you like the fur on your Pokemon now that I've brushed them? And Sapphire says they're luxurious. Ruby says, Of course, I've got talent, you know. They both wink at each other. Sapphire, birthday September 20th, Birthstone Sapphire. Ruby, birthday July 2nd, Birthstone Ruby. The two are full of courage and ready for whatever the future brings. There's something... Okay. Ruby's name in Japanese, which is Yuki, means courage. Oh, the name Brendan, which is Yuki. And Sapphire's name, Haruka, in Japanese means far, and it was originally translated as keep your courage with you now and you'll go far in the future. Okay. Yeah, that translation is very much lost. But it's a nice sentiment regardless. And we see as the waves splash on the shore, what's left of the blue and red orbs wash up. A figure reaches down, grabbing them, saying, now that they've fulfilled their purpose, the orbs have shattered and returned to their original stone forms. Giovanni! Oh, snap. Let these two glittering stones, one in red and one in blue, connect the past. May two friends sharing power open a window to a new and glowing world. The next world awaits you. It has already begun. He turns to some figure saying, Let's go, Surd, Car, Orm. They say, As you wish. Fire red and leaf green. I getcha. We see them outside of where the cave of origin once stood. The end. Or Finn. I gotta say, that was really intense. It really does explain, though, why they were killing off people left, right, and center, because they were just gonna bring them back. I had a feeling I wondered what it could be, but man, Ruby just pulling out Celebi all of a sudden. I got wondering, it's just like, man, why does he always seem to have just one less Pokemon? No, it's because he actually had a full team. But the idea that Celebi was just waiting in the wings to just be used, that's kind of wild, especially considering when did he catch Celebi? Then again, it's hard to know with Celebi. Did it just know? Was it just waiting for whatever could happen? Just knowing that massive destruction was going to happen in Hoenn and it would need to be used at the right time to unleash its power? That's the only thing I could think of. If it was... The legendaries always have this mysterious way about them, especially the ones that have power like that, control over time. But man, that's just wild. I mean, it does make me wonder though, did Ruby just guess that maybe he shouldn't unleash it until it really was a dire situation? What was it about the situation that made him think to release it? Did Maxie and Archie get arrested, or did they escape? Or did they die? No, because Ruby said he wasn't gonna let them die. And Norman's harshness with his son now makes a lot more sense. But even still, geez, it's just, there was a lot going on. But I actually kind of like the fact that they made Archie and Maxie the ultimate evils of all this. I feel like we were putting a little too much on Kyogre and Groudon, which, yeah, no, they're destructive forces, but at the same time, they're just two dudes with a grudge, I always felt, and the humans were just kinda in the way. When it came down to it, it being Maxie and Archie at the end causing the most trouble, even after everything that happened to them, that made a lot of sense. And I liked both Ruby and Sapphire getting involved. Ultimately, it was still Ruby doing a lot of the final blow and stuff, because he's still technically the protagonist chosen, the child of Norman and all that. So he was the main focus. It makes a lot of sense. But I didn't know how to feel about Sapphire constantly being left out of a lot of situations. And I'm kind of bummed Winona didn't really get to play a part at the end or anything like that. Like, Wallace's connection to Ruby was really put at the forefront, but Winona and Sapphire didn't really get to play a part towards the end of all that, which is kind of a bummer. I ain't mad about it. Like I said before, this really was in the end Ruby's story more than Sapphire's, because Ruby had the most to grow in all of this. He had the most to develop, and I still can't get over that gut punch of him just finally showing that he really did learn his lesson about beauty and all that. Because I agree, no matter how someone or something look, it is ultimately the heart and what's inside that really shines through, at least from my perspective. Maybe other people are a little bit different, but it's always been the personality that does the most for me. And even when it comes to a story can have really bad art, but it's the contents of that story that matter the most. Even the most beautiful thing can be ugly if there's nothing of substance within. I do feel that Norman taking the fall for his son is a little bit much. He could have just always played that off as, I don't know what happens. Because it's a Pokemon. He could just have randomly rushed through from an encounter with an enemy or something. Who would have but Norman feels like he has too much honor for that. Like he's a man's man who felt that I need to take responsibility for what my son did. It was an accident. He didn't mean to, but still, as a father, take responsibility for your child's action. So I respect that. I really do. And it wasn't that harsh of a punishment. I mean, 5 years still kind of sucks, and the fact that he was forced to leave his family for a good long while, yeah, that actually is a bit of a bad punishment. But, I mean, it paid off, considering what could have happened if he didn't do that. It's fairly worthy punishment. Although the fact that just Norman and Steven had to die, man. Did we see Steven and his dad during that montage? I don't think we did. I feel like we missed out on like a few things and a few characters during that little montage at the end. I kind of would have loved to see more of the characters that we had seen across Hoenn, rather than the setup for the next story arc, honestly speaking. And it's cool. It's good to see Giovanni again. I have no idea who Serd, Car, and Ormar, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, I know that there's admins who we haven't seen who are in Fire Red and Leaf Green, so maybe that's them. So we'll see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on the Ruby and Sapphire arc as a whole. I was looking forward to Emerald, but Fire Red and Leaf Green are acceptable. Or maybe we'll try out something else in range of that. Until next time, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. And I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.